Okay, so I have an interesting one for you. Want to get your opinion on this. Here on the Memorial Day holiday weekend, this last weekend, on May 28th, Sunday, 2017, at about 6 o'clock in the evening, roughly. The time and the date on the security footage doesn't match. The unit's having a hard time keeping time. Keeping accurate time. We set it and it forgets. Anyways, on May 28th, 2017, at about 6 o'clock, as my sister's boyfriend is leaving, he calls back into the house from the front door and says, "Hey, there's a car in the front yard." Now, naturally, we don't have any idea what he's talking about, so it takes a little bit of clarification before everyone comes running, and lo and behold, there is a car in the bushes in my parents' front yard. Nobody's around. Nobody's in the car. There's not really any evidence of a major accident. There's no torn up grass or plants or dirt. No skid marks. We didn't hear anything. And before he was leaving and opened the door, we didn't see anything, right? So I'm thinking the car is stolen or something. Why is no one around? I'm looking up and down the block. There's literally nobody on the street. So I run back in, grab the phone, and call the police. I figure maybe the car is stolen and was ditched. I have no idea how the accident happened, but, had anyone been there, maybe it wouldn't have. So I'm on the phone with the police. We've given the license plate number. She's asked me, the dispatcher's asked me if the engine's still warm. So we're surveying the area when all of a sudden, from around the corner, this guy that comes running up, in his mid-20s he looks like, and he's just, "I'm so sorry, that's my car, I'm so sorry, I have a tow truck on the way." Alright, so what's going on? His story is that a bee flew into his car, and somehow that caused him to crash, right? Didn't really give an explanation as to what specifically, how fast he was going or any of that. So we, at this point in the in the excitement, we still really don't understand, alright, maybe he was coming around the corner, bee flew into his window, and he just hopped the driveway and came into the planter. Fine, whatever. So, as things start calming down and my thoughts start clearing, I remember that we have the security cameras set up, and even though the date and the time are inaccurate, everything is set up and running. So let's go and take a look. So anyways, come to find out, the car has been in the front yard for about 45 minutes. He never came and knocked on the door. He never came and rang the doorbell or let us know that anything had happened. He just called a tow truck to pull him out and was waiting for the tow truck. There are cars in our driveway. There's my car and my sister's boyfriend's car. People are home. But no one, he doesn't come to the door and let us know what's going on. So that doesn't sit right with me, and so that kind of makes me even more curious. What happened, right? So, I want to go over the footage real quick and highlight key points and get your interpretation, your opinion, and see what the general reaction is to this. It's not a big deal. Again, nice kid. I think he was, scared, maybe first accident, I don't know. There's really not a ton of damage to the yard, so my parents aren't mad, and I'm not mad, but it just, again, I think the footage is going to kind of explain this point. Something doesn't sit right with me. So, the police did come, just full disclosure before we get to the footage, the police did come, and they conducted a field sobriety test and determined that he was not under the influence of anything, and, basically accepted the story as is. We told the police that we had surveillance footage, and they told us that really, since there's no property damage and he doesn't appear to be impaired in any way, there's really not a lot they can do. So they allowed the tow truck to pull the car out, and everybody left. The tow truck left, the police left, and the kid drove away in his car home. And that's all well and good. Again, I don't necessarily think there's anything that can be done by the police. There's no real crime here. But again, it just kind of doesn't sit well, if that makes sense. Hopefully that makes sense. So, let's get to the footage. We're looking at my parents' driveway that can see out to the street. And so we're going to run the footage. And up in the top right corner, you see his car come around the corner, slowly, it's no big deal, and stop. Now this is real time. You can see some of the bushes are kind of fluttering. He's stopped. Sitting there, still sitting there. I probably should have taken note of where this starts, how long he sits there, but you know, this is a long time. What's going on? Okay, so now he's rolling. Look. He's rolling. Very slowly. Very slowly. Straight line, not turning. He hops the curb. Slows down. Over the curb. And into the planter. No wonder we didn't hear anything. So that answers that question. This was not a violent accident, right? Well, here's the interesting thing about this footage as I continue to let it play, because he's sitting there. There's no brake lights. He's not on the brakes. I'm going to describe why. Maybe you already saw what I don't know what happened, but the story of the bee flying into his car, I don't know. I don't know if it adds up. He's still sitting there. That's the thing. He's still sitting there. I think the car may have just moved a little bit. I'm not sure. Yep. Okay, so his arm's out the window. See his arm out the window? Because it gets better. Because here's the thing that I notice when I'm watching the security footage. That's not where the car rests. That's not where the car stops, ultimately. That's not where we find the car. So what happened? Okay, so here we go. I think. Arms back in. He's kind of figuring out what's going on. Looking around, head out the window. Where am I? Oh, okay. Kind of lurched forward. Trying to back up. Trying to back up. Not working. Looking around. Got out of the car. You know, what am I stuck on? Where am I? Okay. Trying to back up. Wheels must be spinning. Can't see the wheels. No, that didn't work. What am I stuck on? Why can't I get out? Which at this point, not to editorialize, but thank goodness he couldn't get out, because he would have just driven away, presumably. Again, that's, my opinion. Okay, so, kind of frustrated, confused. Back in the car. And he drives down into the yard. Okay, so there we go. I'm going to leave it here. I'm going to stop the footage here. Stopping the footage here. And we're going to switch to a second camera angle. We're going to talk about this second angle. Actually, what I'd like to do... Actually, you know what? Instead of that, what I want to do right now is I want to go over and zoom in. I want to zoom in on this, okay? So we kind of have an idea of how the accident took place. He wasn't moving at a high rate of speed. He didn't miss the turn or overshoot or anything like that. Really not too reckless. Again, I'm just trying to piece this together. I'm not trying to disparage this kid. I don't think poorly of this kid. I'm trying to figure this thing out because things just don't add up. And in this particular instance, we have fairly clear, high definition video footage from the unblinking eye, right? So let's go back over, and I'm gonna do my best to zoom in, because if you look closely, I want to take you to a particular point in the footage. So I'm going to take it to, we're going to go back, and here he comes around the corner. And he's sitting there. Now from this camera angle, and from all the camera angles, this is the best angle and the best shot I have. I can't really see what's going on in the car. From this distance and with the lighting and the glass on the windshield, the whole 9 yards. Everything compiled together. Not really sure what's going on. But I'm going to zoom in here. The car starts rolling. I'm going to zoom in on the curb, because that's when you can see very clearly. Here he hops the curb. His head is bobbing around. He is passed out. I don't know what happened, but he is passed out. That makes a lot more sense. Now maybe you saw that on the wide shot. Maybe that's what you were thinking. He's obviously not in control of the car, because I'm thinking when he's saying to us, you know, a bee flew into my car, I'm thinking you're moving and driving, and a bee flies into your car, startles you, your hand comes off the wheel, you're flailing around trying to swat at the bee, and it all happens in the blink of an eye kind of thing. You're in another lane. In this particular case, you're across the road, off the road, across the sidewalk, and in someone's front yard. That's how, when I'm looking at the car accident at the end, where he's deep into the lawn, it never dawned on me before looking at the footage that he may have actually driven deeper into the yard. I'm not sure why. We'll get to that in at the different camera angle when we pick it back up. But I zoomed in on the curb, and now I see he's passed out. That's concerning. And he didn't mention that. And as far as I know, he didn't mention that to the police. Now, I don't know if maybe it wasn't a bee, something hit him in the head. I don't know. Maybe he's allergic to bees, he got stung. I have no idea. But none of the, you know, I came to and I was in the front yard. There's none of that. He didn't say any of that. It was just a bee flew into my window and distracted me, and I ended up in the front yard. That's what we were told, and that's the story he stuck with to the police, as far as I know. But I'm looking at the video footage. What do you think? Do you see what I'm seeing? I'm seeing his head bobbing uncontrollably, like he's passed out. He's just limp in the front seat, right? Okay, so that's the accident itself. So now let's kind of look at a second camera angle, which is a terrible camera angle from the perspective of the accident itself. It's because it's my parents' front door, and it's meant to capture people walking to and from the front door. So based on the angle that the camera is mounted, it cannot see the road very well, and based on where the car comes to rest, it can't really see the accident itself very clearly. So let's pick it up from the car. I want to pick it up from him coming to, which is kind of hard for me to see, again, from this angle. Okay, so I'm going to pick it up from here. That's 245. We're going to pick it up from here. So he's in the car, and he's, okay, so we're driving. Car's kind of moving a little bit. Now that's where the car gently came to a rest, right? Car door comes open. He's checking out. What am I stuck on? How come my wheels are spinning? Okay. Gets back in. Nothing happening. Car's kind of moving. Tires are spinning, probably. Again, can't see the tires. Back out of the car. You know, no traction. And again, this is the part that this does kind of infuriate me to a certain extent. Glad there was no damage and no one was hurt, but if he had gotten out, okay, so here we go, okay. He lurches forward. If he had gotten out, he would have driven away. And there we go, here we go. He's driving further, I guess trying to get to the steps. And now he officially is hard stuck. Hard stuck. Now this is where the car is abandoned. Not at this point, but I mean, this is the position that the car is in. He drives to this position, deeper into the brush, still trying to get out. Yep. Good and stuck. Took out one of the lights. I think two of the lights, maybe. Thank goodness he didn't get to the steps, because they would crumble under the weight of the car. They're just, they're stone. They're meant to be walked on, not driven on. And again, you know, still pretty good. As stuck as he got, the tow truck pulled him right out, and he was able to drive away, so he didn't mess up his car too bad. Didn't really mess up the bushes too bad. That's, you know... It's not like the car ended up upside down and took out a tree and hit the wall and crumbled the steps. I mean, it could have been a lot worse. Thank God everyone was alright. But again, it just doesn't add up. As you're watching this, do you see kind of where I'm coming from? Where it doesn't sit right that the police just let him go. Like, an accident is an accident, but it's just kind of like... Okay, so, like, knock on the front door and ask for help. People are obviously home. You see the car in the driveway there off to the right. At no point, I'm not going to show the whole footage because I'm not going to have you here for an hour, but at no point does he come to the front door, knock on the door, and if my sister's boyfriend hadn't left when he did, tow truck would have showed up, pulled him out, and we would have never known about it. So brake lights, still trying to get out. Forward, backward, car's just not moving. I imagine on the other side the tires are just spinning. So at a certain point he's going to grab his insurance paperwork, presumably, and get on his cell phone. I'm going to cut it there. So that it looks like we're there now. Gets his insurance paperwork. He's going to call for a tow. And he hangs out on the sidewalk. He sits on the curb. He eventually leaves. A bunch of neighbors drive by. They were pretty useless. Thanks, neighbors. So we're going to leave it here. I leave it in your hands. I leave it to you, because this accident has already happened. It's in the past. Again, not a lot of damage, but as a driver on the road, this is concerning. Is it not? Am I totally off base? Let me know. What do you think? What do you see? Again, I'm not trying to pick on the guy. I'm not trying to be difficult or anything like that. I'm just looking at this like, you know, what the heck happened? And thank goodness it happened the way that it did, so that nobody got hurt and no property was damaged. But what about next time? Or has this happened before? Something else I don't know. Again, I leave it up to you. I present the footage. Hopefully I presented it in a easy to understand way. I'm trying not to be too judgmental, because again, like I said, the kid's apologetic. but it just doesn't sit well with me watching the footage, watching it unfold, and then listening to the story. You know, ring the doorbell, ask for help, like, at least let us know, hey, by the way, I accidentally rolled into your front yard. Is that too much to ask? I don't know. I don't know. Let me know what you think.